What is up, chefs, foodies, and students? Welcome to Everybody Knows. I'm Anders. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Today we are talking about the ingredient of rancid oil. I know, it's not oil, it's tortilla chips. We'll get to that in a second. This ingredient does not originate from anywhere on the globe, and it is not used in any cuisine. This is one of the aromas on the Universal Aroma Wheel that is there as an undesirable aroma. So many aroma wheels contain compounds or smells that are there to train people who are using those aroma wheels to know what not to look for, or when they encounter something to be able to identify it and know what it means. And so in this case, that's what we're talking about when oil goes rancid. What is rancidity really? It's basically when the oil has reacted enough with the environment, usually just oxygen or the air, and it takes on traits that are undesirable to us when we're cooking with it. Now, again, we don't have a glamorous close-up of this ingredient because there's really nothing to see. What this is a tiny jar of tortilla chips. Now, if you are a culinary teacher, you need to have one of these in your learning space. Why? Because many students aren't directly, purposefully exposed to rancid oil to know exactly what it smells like. And they might be introduced to something like, oh, class, this sesame oil has gone rancid, I want you to smell it. And then they'll smell sesame oil and they'll pick up notes of sesame and they'll associate that with rancidity. And so this is one of the best things I've ever discovered because A, it gives you a complete direct smell of rancid oil, and B, does not make a mess. Because I used to teach younger students and we had this little bottle of rancid oil, and wouldn't you guess that oil ended up on every single surface every time we opened it, and it was disgusting. And so I found some basically taco shells that had been stored for a camping trip, had been left unattended for years, and the oil in the chips had gone rancid. And so now this little jar serves as a demonstration for what rancid oil smells like. And so we're gonna smell it. Really, what you're looking for if you're trying to find out if your oil is rancid, it's the smell test, but also if there's any weird film on the oil, or if the oil has been stored in sunlight, or open to the air, or has debris in it, if it's been used too much. So like fry oil can go rancid if you don't clean it properly or if you don't change it regularly. And so this is what we're looking for. Yep, rancid oil. There really isn't too much to describe it, although I will say one of my students, I think several students, have pegged this right on the money. If you don't have rancid oil, it smells just like crayons. It's so strange. Crayons, or some people have said Sculpey, the modeling clay. But there is some kind of compound in both of those products that also is essentially some kind of rancid oil. And so the problem will be if you use rancid oil in your cooking, that's exactly what it's going to taste like. It's going to taste like somebody put a crayon in your food. Delicious. And you might find that particularly piquant if you are a 5-year-old who enjoys eating crayons. Who am I to judge? Let's take a quick look at the aroma wheel and see where rancid oil falls within it. All right, we will be looking in the category of chemical over here to the left, which is essentially just pure substances of some kind. And within there, we see a whole category of fatty, meaning fats and oils. We then go into the oxidized subcategory, and we see here rancid oil. I would not say necessarily that it smells quite like soap, but again, we're sort of just clumping together some of the oddballs, and it just so happens that soap and rancid oil are both undesirables. They're both compounds that you would not want to find in your food. And so they have just been put side by side. And then we also have fry oil within the oxidized section as well. Now, I will say, fry oil is not quite oxidized, but you can taste that it has been used to fry foods. And sometimes this is desirable. For example, we were doing a multi-course dinner based on crab, and we had fried several crab dishes, and what we wanted for our dessert course, we decided not to put crab in it exactly, but we made a funnel cake and we fried that cake in the fry oil that we had used on the crab. And so some of the aroma compounds from the crab were imbued into the funnel cake, and it was just this very light sort of dance of like this idea of crab, but within a dessert context in a way that wasn't unappetizing. And so fry oil is another form of oxidized oil that's not quite rancid. In fact, it can be not rancid at all, not even close, but it will have other aroma compounds in it from the purpose of frying, or from its use in frying other food. And so I think its location on the wheel is satisfactory, and it makes sense and is described well. Some factors just to consider about keeping your oil. You basically want to keep it cool, out of light, and away from oxygen if you can help it. All of those things will contribute to pushing oil into rancidity faster. And again, I highly recommend, even if you're not an instructor, if you're just a chef, you maintain a kitchen space, you want your employees to be able to pick out rancid oil when they smell it. And so to have a little double checker, this little container that has some rancid tortilla crumbs in it, that's gonna help them do that. It's gonna help them calibrate their brains, and it doesn't make a mess. And if you label it rancid oil, no one's ever gonna use it by mistake. So, something to think about. We are not going to look in the flavor Bible for this, because it will not be in there, because it is not an ingredient that is used. And that about wraps it up. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about this aroma as you're cooking or eating, and as well as the words that we use to describe it. Have you encountered this ingredient before, either in your kitchen or in a restaurant? Hopefully not. But did you run into rancid oil at some point recently? Do you like this aroma? Why or why not? And do you agree or disagree with what I've shared with you today? Any of the answers to those questions, leave them in the comments. I would love to read them. I hope this video made sense and got you thinking about the aroma of rancid oil. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to help me get an ingredient to feature in a future video, please send me an email or a private message. And if you would like to join the food aroma nerdery, go ahead and subscribe, and you'll see all my latest videos. And if you would like either a paper poster or a digital copy of the aroma wheel that I have built, go ahead and check the description for links. Thank you so much. Bye.